she opened up on the screen in her class of standard 3 for children, and the first thing that came on screen was nudity. And this kind of thing, Mr. Speaker, is not good for any society. So let's, as a house and as a country, stand up and protect, especially our growing children. And even others who are responsible must be brought to order, the same way Americans.
Senator Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Mr. Speaker, I want to join the rest of my colleagues in agreeing and congratulating our colleague, Senator Falada, who is slowly by slowly carving out a niche for herself as a digital senator. Last time she came before us with a statement on the effects of TikTok in our society. And today she has moved a little bit further and brought to the attention of the House the effects of the various social media platforms in our society and the need of what we need to do as a society, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while congratulating our colleague, I wish to urge her further to take on the comments that have been made by colleague senators in contributing and actually fine-tune all these proposals into amendments of the cyber security bill that we passed in this House, and the National Assembly did what they do best, Mr. Speaker, which is to do not very kind things to our bills, Mr. Speaker. I had to be careful on the language that I use sometimes. Mr. Speaker, you know, given the work that I do elsewhere in this parliament, sometimes I find myself in difficult situations of balancing between being a senator and their representative elsewhere also. But we must still say the truth about what they do to some of our laws, because, you know, in fact, Senator Wetangula, you may want to know that actually when we passed that bill, because I was a member of ICT committee last time, they actually went and dumped it to gather dust, and it was never processed until this time, where when we came back this time in 2017, they republished it afresh and purporting it to be a bill generated by the National Assembly. Completely went ahead. Mr. Speaker, back to the topic that we are discussing. If you're a keen follower of news, Mr. Speaker, you'll realize that the government of France yesterday fined Google, the leading global tech firm, 500 million euros for copyright infringement, Mr. Speaker. That is how serious governments are taking and putting to task some of these global conglomerates and tech firms that look into the rest of the world without any consideration of the effects, because many of them, to them, it's just a business. So long as people are advertising, they are fine with it, without taking proper detail and considering what are the effects of the work that they are doing. Mr. Speaker, many Kenyans do not know that even when you make a simple tweet, and my friend Murkomen here is good at that, he doesn't know that as he tweets for fun, for pleasure, and the things that he does, he's generating business to other people elsewhere, and he never gets paid for it. It is time that as a government, because we did include, Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to add that because he's my friend. I know that he's currently very broke, yet he's making millions for other people elsewhere. You know, Mr. Speaker, that's why we are talking about bottom-up economy, because we need to teach hustlers like him how to make money, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, the point is, we did set up the cyber security unit in that bill. But given the challenges of this republic, knowing that our economy is not doing so well, we need to think, and this is a challenge to Senator Falada, of how we can generate revenue for that unit through imposition of taxes on many of these platforms that get contents from Kenyans free of charge. The videos that young people are doing on TikTok, the posts that they are making on Facebook, the videos that they are generating on Twitter and sharing, it all ends up creating revenue for these companies which do not pay a single tax in this republic despite doing business. In fact, Mr. Speaker, Senator Falada will help us better, because our government has a way of tracking and ensuring that we get a report, and I'm sure it will shock the country, of how much in revenue Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Google have generated from the borders of Kenya. You'll be shocked, Mr. Speaker, that they do not pay a single shilling in tax. Those are the areas that we need to tax, as opposed to taxing bread, as opposed to taxing unga. The people in Treasury needs to think better. There are avenues through which we can generate revenue for this country and use the revenue that we are generating to cure some of the social ills as are being enlisted by our colleague Senator Falada this afternoon. Part of that money, you ring fence it, Mr. Speaker, and ensure that it goes to the cyber security unit, which will crack down on all these vices that have been listed by our colleague Senator. Therefore, I want to, while supporting her statement, I want to urge her to do further research and come up with good proposals of amendments to that cyber security bill that was passed in this House, Mr. Speaker, so that we are able to actually stem and put a stop to all these vices that she has listed, because it is something that any particular, either be a leader or a parent, anybody who's concerned about the welfare of our society, this is something that will always bother you, because it's a menace that if we don't take care as a society, then it can cause chaos and so much trouble in our society, Mr. Speaker. So congratulations, Senator Falada, but please do further and follow the advice that you've been given by your colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mtula Kilonzo Jr.
Thank you, Speaker. I support this statement. And let me correct something that Senator Wetangula and Senator Cheriot have said. Once we drafted the cybercrime law in the ICT committee, the National Assembly plagiarized that bill and then said it was not a matter concerning counties. So it actually never came here. Senator Cheriot and I and Senator Mutai Kagwe were invited to NEC Japan, and the late Juma Boy, yes. What we saw there is exactly what Senator Cheriot is referring to, how to monitor cyber phishing. We were taken to a room of young people who were monitoring people who were attacking internet facilities in a room of young people only. And that is the proposal we had put in that bill. That proposal never saw the light of day because we do not monitor the cyberspace. While we cannot regulate the internet, Japan has a method of regulating and finding out who is saying what, who is from what place, and flagging the people who, like the former president of America, were using the internet to either spread hatred or spew vitriol. Going into the election, Mr. Speaker, this will be a tool. The 2007 elections were funded by radio stations. Election violence in Kenya will be funded through the internet, by fake news, pseudo accounts, and politicians all over the place, including a lot of us, are going to use this facility on the internet to fund ethnic hatred. And I've seen part of it in ongoing because of the by-election that is happening in Kiambaa. And nobody is able to follow these people who are killing people on internet, people who are spreading, typing things about people, and nobody can check. Why? Because we have not that police monitoring unit that is supposed to identify you, because your phone has a specific identity. The reason the DCI is able to trace people today is because we now have technology that can trace you from wherever you are. The lady who, I can assure you that lady knows what they are doing. Most likely she has run away. Mr. Speaker, the solution to what Senator Falhada is saying is on that unit. That is the facility that will stop young children from watching pornography, that will stop people from using the internet to reach to them. Mr. Speaker, Senator Cheriot has a statement. I don't know whether it has been answered through our Committee of Finance, on people who have used our gadgets to steal from Kenyans. Mobile lending is still misuse of the internet. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this is a serious issue. It goes from moral issues to conmen, to pseudo accounts, to a lot of things, Mr. Speaker. And those who want to defame people's characters now have found a group of people who are called bloggers, who are paid very little amounts of money to defame and besmirch the characters of people. And you have no recourse because you cannot even sue these people. So, Mr. Speaker, other than what Senator Falada said, it is important for us to find a framework where these companies that allow people to defame the names of people and to use the internet to spread pornography, that we can find them. That is the way to do it, Mr. Speaker, and I hope we can make some progress. The ICT committee, and Senator Wambua is here, should in fact take this matter up. Senator Falhada has brought this to our attention. We know what she is saying. We are affected by people like this. Senator Wambua and Senator Gideon Moi must take up this matter, because my concern now, other than the pornography, is that somebody somewhere is going to use the internet to spread hatred during the 2022 elections. And we can cause mayhem in this country if we do not monitor the internet. Thank you.
Senator Onesimus Murkomen.
We thank.
The Speaker, the Speaker, when it comes to social media, the Speaker, I don't know why Senator Wetangula is so excited about my contribution, but first let me start by congratulating Senator Falhada, who has been, like Senator Jeriot said, consistent when it comes to raising issues of social media, issues of technology, and how it affects the youth and our children. This statement is very important. It is an important statement because this chamber is a chamber of debate, and it's a place of discussing matters of national importance. Many Kenyans are watching us and will be reading and referring to the things we are saying here. And the most important thing we are doing, Mr. Speaker, is to create awareness. Awareness among ourselves, our parents, our children, about the positive things that we can get from social media, but also the negative things we can face from the social media. The Speaker, like Senator Cheriot said, I would be, without beating my own drums, Mr. Speaker, I'm the leading legislator on social media with a followership. Yeah, with a followership, Mr. Speaker, with a followership of, Mr. Speaker, 1.7 million followers on Twitter and nearly 400,000 on Facebook. Mr. Speaker, I was unable to grow any followership on Instagram and the like because it would require, it needs someone like Sakaja who can rap, Mr. Speaker, for you to succeed on Instagram and TikTok. But, Mr. Speaker, the point I make is that social media is very positive when it comes to enhancing engagement, in terms of enhancing knowledge, keeping interactions. Some of my best friends that we met in school about 20 years ago, Mr. Speaker, were unable to meet. We were able to follow each other on Facebook, communicate, find out how we are doing. And sometimes, Mr. Speaker, even when I used to teach, you are looking for a comparative study in what you are teaching or what you are researching on. And, Mr. Speaker, it becomes very easy to communicate to a friend who is in another country and ask them whether they have a journal article in the area you are researching on, or whether they have a book that was published in their country in recent past that can be useful to your research and study. Mr. Speaker, that is the positives we get from social media. We are able to manage our affairs, our businesses, our farms, Mr. Speaker, everything that we want to do. Even livestock nowadays, Mr. Speaker, are managed through technology and social media, WhatsApp, and so forth. Makes things very, very good. But we must be alive to the fact that, Mr. Speaker, the negatives are also there. Just like face-to-face communication or face-to-face relationship among ourselves had its negative part, Mr. Speaker, social media has even accelerated the negatives that are there. The worst among them, Mr. Speaker, in fact, I dare say, Kenya and developing countries and least developed countries have less regulation of social media than the developed countries. Mr. Speaker, in many countries, it is a rule that you should not post the photos of children on social media, Mr. Speaker. But here we keep posting. A friend of mine in UK once told me, Mr. Speaker, the reason why you will never see a picture of children being posted on social media is because criminals are targeting children. And when they find the social media post you've put a post that my child goes to this school, we live in this estate, Mr. Speaker, this is what we do, the children become subject of attack and target by criminals, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we might, and I want to suggest to Senator Falada, before the end of this term, Mr. Speaker, because we only have 1 year, to perhaps think about how best can the best practices that are used by other countries in the world to protect their children and their citizens from harmful activities of social media, like pornography, Mr. Speaker, like things like cyberbullying, like, Mr. Speaker, exposure of children. I know, Mr. Speaker, of a friend where they discovered that their child was communicating in the normal way of just allowing children to use gadgets. They realized that their children was communicating with, Mr. Speaker, persons from other countries that are interested in pedophiles, Mr. Speaker, that are interested in pornographic materials. So they are telling the child, can you take a picture this way? Can you take a picture this way? Can you take a video this way? Then they go and post on those social media pages, Mr. Speaker, where they earn a lot of money because they are running illicit, Mr. Speaker, businesses. I think it's important from the chambers of this House, apart from just raising awareness among our people, for us to look at ways and mechanisms of tightening controls. I have read from the media that, Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly, if I read right, Mr. Speaker, is that Honorable Duale was publishing a bill on pornography. But we need to widen that bill, Mr. Speaker, to discuss matters of the dangers of social media. Mr. Speaker, it's also important for citizens to know that social media can also be a place you go to make money. And, Mr. Speaker, like Senator Cheriota said, it's only that my page is useful for, Mr. Speaker, conversations that are for public good. I do not want to charge and advertise on behalf of this company or the other. But many citizens don't know that these social media influencers are paid to advertise. And sometimes the other area that needs, Mr. Speaker, regulation is that they are also paid to bring down companies using, Mr. Speaker, things like we are trending this company, false information about this company. And some companies have been brought down, including shares of companies have been brought down by, Mr. Speaker, social media influencers, Mr. Speaker, who have absolutely no regard and they are not regulated. We need to have a law that makes it possible for these people to be held into account for every information they post, so that, Mr. Speaker, the negative side of social media is dealt with. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, we need to find mechanism of punishing companies for addictions, Mr. Speaker, that come with use of social media by children. And, Mr. Speaker, you know, somebody was saying here that we need to teach our children about addiction, about social media. Now, between the children and the parents, sometimes you don't know who is more addicted than the other. Mr. Speaker, because you will find the parents are busy with social media accounts, Mr. Speaker. The children are busy with theirs. Everybody is addicted. The children are learning from their parents. There is no conversation that we can have in our families. Mr. Speaker, these are the kind of things that we must take deliberate step, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that we raise resources. I take the challenge that has come from Senator Cheriot to ensure that, Mr. Speaker, as a hustler nation believer, that those young people who are hustling from down up, we also facilitate, Mr. Speaker, mechanism for them to make money, so that even in this very difficult time, they can do, Mr. Speaker, research papers that are used abroad. They can work for people who are not in this country, Mr. Speaker, because therein lies also great opportunities in the same social media. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support and encourage Senator Falada. I'm willing to sit with her to share my ideas and for her to develop a very good bill that can go a long way to improve, Mr. Speaker, the use of social media in this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I just gave it a little bit more time, so I'll give Wambua, Senator Wambua, to say something, then we move on because the statement hour is almost... I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate Senator Falhada for bringing this matter to our attention and to the floor of this Senate. Mr. Speaker, I want to begin by saying that we cannot run away from the fact that we are living in a digital age. At a time that, Mr. Speaker, a lot of virtual contacts and interactions are taking place, and there are positive things about it, and of course very negative things about the new normal. The Speaker, to the credit of social media, we must appreciate that it has made life easier. It has caused efficiency in transactions of businesses, including even our own business in this Senate. But Mr. Speaker, there are serious issues when it comes to social media that we must address ourselves to. And I'll just point maybe 2 or 3 of them. And then the Speaker say that as a member of the ICT committee, we would definitely have a sitting with Falhada, Senator, and see how to take this matter forward. The Speaker, it must bother each and every one of us that our children across the country have by far a lot more friends in social media than physical friends. Our children are spending a lot more time with virtual friends, people that they have never met, spending weekends with people that they have never seen. And Mr. Speaker, what that does is that it seriously erodes social and societal moral fiber, that we are bringing up children who are hardly able to manage relationships, because the people they interact with more are faceless characters and people that you don't even know what they're interacting are doing. Mr. Speaker, there will be need for serious attention by not just this Senate, but by a lot more other arms of government to come up with policies on how to deal with social media. As Speaker, where I worked in the newspaper industry, it got to a point that all media houses had to come up with social media strategies and policies to protect their businesses and to protect their staff. The Speaker, the issue of fake news is not new to any one of us. There are people in social media, these faceless characters, Mr. Speaker, whose duty and pleasure every day is to insult other people, to assassinate the characters of other people, to twist information to suit very parochial interests. And so, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, this matter that has been brought up by Senator Falhada is a matter that the ICT committee, where I sit, would be a matter of great interest, working together with all other stakeholders to see how we can regulate the social media industry. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the positives about it, and I don't know actually what has happened to the digital surveillance system, the security system that was installed in Nairobi, where in real time we are able to monitor operations within the city and take corrective actions. The Speaker, with those remarks, I support. Okay, order, senators. Before I call the next statement, I have a communication. Honorable senators, you may recall that yesterday I issued a communication to the effect that a half-day workshop for all senators to deliberate on the legislative agenda for the remaining time of the 12th Parliament will be held tomorrow, Thursday, 15th July 2021. The workshop will be held here in the Senate chamber, main Parliament buildings, from 8 a.m. to 12:40 p.m. Honorable senators, in view of the importance of this meeting, I therefore direct that all committee sittings be rescheduled where practically possible
to enable honorable senators to attend this critical meeting. I thank you. From 8 a.m. to 12:40. Next statement is by Senator Rose Nyamunga.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 47-1 to make a statement on an issue of general topical concern, namely the insecurity menace caused by the border industry and the resultant effect on the economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, motorcycle business known as border has eased the transportation problem of connecting urban and rural areas in Kenya. The border originated from Uganda in the early 1990s and spread through Busia town to western Kenya and to adjacent towns. Subsequently, most towns in Kenya are crowded with borders. Mr. Speaker, sir, the industry has gained popularity in both rural and urban areas because of its ability to absorb many jobless youth, easing pressure on the government to find employment for its growing population. The issue of border service is even more prevalent in rural areas where public transport may not be so sophisticated and the roads are not well developed. Amidst loss of unemployment among graduates, the border industry is slowly emerging as one of the biggest drivers of the economy and the highest income earner in the informal sector. The industry has 1.4 million riders who collect an average of 180 million daily, which amounts to 27 billion every month. Mr. Speaker, sir, the border costs between 58,000 and 150,000 due to its affordability. Many youth across cities, towns, and rural areas continue to acquire them. The Economic Survey 2020 shows border and tuk-tuk registration in the past year rose from 22,172 units, defying tough economic times that has hit most industries in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, despite the income potential, the industry has been hit by criminals that use the nimble motorcycles to commit crimes. The continued operation of this fast-growing industry without proper and more specific regulation is a ticking time bomb. Recent insecurity incidences of men on border snatching phones and handbags from ladies and speeding off have been reported in several parts of the country, raising fundamental questions that security agencies should ponder on, namely the preparedness of the country to deal with the rising number of incidences resulting from border and the rising incidences of number of incidents resulting from border and the rising incidences of kidnapping, robberies, mugging, and other insecurities caused by border riders. Videos of criminals committing crimes on border have been trending in the last couple of days. Most recently, a video of a police officer who was robbed of his mobile phone while controlling traffic in one of the major roads in the city in broad daylight. Mr. Speaker, sir, most Kenyans are scared for their safety and that of their electronic devices when they spot a rider approaching. This is not good. With a large number of both users and income earners depending on this mode of transport, it behooves the government to closely monitor this fast-growing industry, as there is at least a total number of 4.8 million people who are depending on this industry. Mr. Speaker, sir, I therefore urge and recommend that there is need to amend existing pieces of legislation to safeguard the economic gains that this industry has achieved, as the country risks running down the gains the border sector hails to achieve. Its proper regulations are not put in place to address the glaring problem emanating from the sector. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next statement is by Senator Architect Sylvia Kasanga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of intervention, Senator Cherargei?
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to comment on Senator Nyamunga's statement.
Already, you are late.
Okay,
I didn't see it. Okay, sorry. Okay, proceed, Senator Kasanga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 47-1 to make a statement on the Kenya Mental Health Action Plan 2021 to 2025. Mr. Speaker, sir, Kenya was ranked 6th with the highest number of depression cases among African countries by a 2017 World Health Organization report. The report further stated that in Kenya, 1 in 4 people is likely to suffer from a mental illness. The Kenya Mental Health Policy 2015 to 2030 indicates that mental disorders have risen exponentially in Kenya. 20 to 25% of outpatients seeking primary health care present symptoms of a mental illness. Stigma and discrimination are a major barrier to the improvement of mental health and well-being of the population. It contributes to human rights violations of people with mental and psychosocial disabilities, and inadequate investment in mental health acts as a barrier to their inclusion in the community. Kenya is experiencing a rapid increase in suicides, mental health conditions, substance use, and addictive disorders of epidemic proportion, an indication of social challenges and unmet needs at societal level. It is estimated that 50% of all mental disorders start at the age of 14 years, and 75% by the age of 24 years. Mr. Speaker, sir, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused enormous significant health, socioeconomic, and psychological impact on the population. Hence, mental health and psychosocial support strategies and measures are critical in the short-term and long-term responses. The Kenya Mental Health Policy 2015 to 2030 provides a framework on interventions for securing mental health system reforms in Kenya. This is in line with the Constitution 2010, Vision 2030, and Kenya Health Policy 2014 to 2030, the Health Act 2017, and global commitments. The Constitution of Kenya 2030 in Article 43(1)(a) provides that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health, which includes the right to healthcare services, and this necessarily includes mental health. The 65th World Health Assembly adopted a resolution on the global burden of mental disorders and the need for a comprehensive coordinated response from the health and social sectors at country level. Subsequently, during the 66th World Health Assembly, the resolution was adopted. It called on member states to develop comprehensive mental health action plans in line with the Global Comprehensive Mental Health Action Plan 2013 to 2020. Mr. Speaker, sir, on Wednesday, 9th June 2021, the Ministry of Health launched the Kenya Mental Health Action Plan 2021 to 2025. The plan will provide for a framework for both national and county governments and stakeholders to implement the mental health policy through strategic objectives which specified priority targets and indicators. It will also guide the implementation of recommendations by the Task Force on Mental Health with strategic actions and investments to bring transformative reforms in the following broad key areas. 1, policy and legal reforms, reforms to improve access to quality mental health services, financial reforms and investment, cross-sectoral mental health reforms, and administrative actions. The Mental Health Action Plan will target the following strategic objectives and priority actions. 1, mental health leadership and governance. 2, preventative and promotive healthcare, mental health, access to quality mental health services, and strengthening of mental health systems. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to commend the Ministry of Health for this effort and its contribution in actualizing the Kenya Mental Health Action Plan 2021 to 2025. This is a big milestone in the promotion of mental health in Kenya. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Moses Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to that statement on mental health, but with a very local perspective to it. Mr. Speaker, 2-3 days ago, I visited the Homa Bay Teaching and Referral Hospital just to check the state of the hospital and its preparedness to deal with the fourth wave of COVID that is expected in July. There's been a lot of focus on ICU beds, ventilators, oxygen, and all those things. And Mr. Speaker, we have forgotten to consider the mental health of our health workers and the mental health of patients and families that are bereaved out of COVID. Mr. Speaker, the situation in our counties, particularly the areas that have been locked down, and more so Homa Bay County, is that you have close to 30 people in isolation. Every day there is a death. And Mr. Speaker, this pandemic has affected generally the elderly in society, and for some interesting reason, mostly men. And so the nurses and doctors in these hospitals are every day seeing their fathers and uncles and pastors and community leaders succumbing to COVID. Mr. Speaker, these doctors are also humans. In as much as they're used to cadavers, in as much as they're used to blood and all those things, it is never the same when it is your father, your mother, your brother, or your church leader that is affected. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I bring this up is that there is need for this Senate to insist that each and every county must have a county psychologist. In addition, each and every county must have a mental health officer. I looked at the structures in my county, and I can bet that in all our counties, most of our counties, you will not find a county psychologist. If there is one, he or she is employed by the national government. In most of our counties, you'll not find a mental health officer. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge Senator Sylvia Kasanga, even as she processes a mental health bill afresh, following the concurrence that was required by the High Court, that in it we can make sure that there are certain provisions that make it mandatory for mental health to be given a priority by our county governments, particularly now during the pandemic. And Mr. Speaker, it is not just the doctors and nurses, it is also patients who take their, or families that take their patients to hospital, and within 3 or 4 days, the Delta variant has gone with them. These people are forced to bury in non-traditional and non-African ways, and as a result, they never get closure. Mr. Speaker, these people need help, and that can only be provided if we prioritized mental health by having county psychologists and county mental health officers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mudhama Agnes Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to support this bill by Senator Kasanga of mental health. And mine is just few words to say that our NHIF in most hospitals don't cover mental health. And mental health is just illness like any other illness. And these people really suffer. They are also suffering trauma of being called mad people. And something should be done so that it can be taken and they can be protected so that they can come out in the open and say what they are suffering from. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Senator Masinza Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the statement by Senator Sylvia Kasanga. Mr. Speaker, mental health is very important in our country, and I want to say that I want to commend the government for putting into reforms that has been put into the mental section or sector, so that to see the families or the livelihood of Kenyans being improved. Mr. Speaker, when you look at many Kenyans, especially on COVID, when it comes to COVID-19 pandemic, many families have been affected, mostly, especially when it comes to mental health. And hence, when we put more allocation of resources, when we put budget and we prioritize the activities to do with mental health, then we shall be saving our livelihood, we shall be saving our families. It is with this that we see so many cases, especially when you see currently, many people, even in police sector or security sector, many crimes have been committed. And if you find the details about those scenes, you find that many people are suffering in silence, and that is what we call psychodepression, or they are suffering from psychosocial depression. So, Mr. Speaker, I want just to support and to tell Senator Sylvia that let us come up with more policies, let us come up with more amendments that actually feature on in the government of Kenya, that will assist the government to see really the need that we want in this field of health, and to keep our livelihood, to keep our people, especially the health sector, alive, and to the point that they can save their own people by bringing up or supporting through the budgets that are necessary to support the health sector of our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Senator Junior.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to support. Rumor has it, and maybe Senator Kasanga can confirm, that all of us are suffering from mental illness. It's only some level, degree that varies. So you don't have to run at night like they do in Homa Bay to be a mental health patient. All of us are mental patients, health patients. So it's a pandemic of its own nature. I was reading an article recently of a very good friend of mine, of a young person who committed suicide for earning a salary of 18,000 shillings. And every other time I receive reports from my team in Makueni, one person or the other is committing suicide, killing their parents, etc., etc. Mr. Speaker, at the time when Senator Kasanga was proposing the amendments to the mental health bill, there was a lot of opposition from a lot of people out there who thought that this is a matter we should not touch. Some people thought at some point that Mathare Hospital was a hospital for mental ill patients in Nairobi. It is now apparent, Mr. Speaker, that we need a mental health facility in every of the 47 county hospitals, so that people can receive this sort of attention. What Senator Kajwang is talking about, psychological assistance. The statistics show, Mr. Speaker, and a lot of MPs have suffered from COVID, that COVID is also a cause for mental illness. And this is a serious issue, because the after effects of COVID, Mr. Speaker, is some element of derangement. And I think the bill by Senator Kasanga must be given some priority, but we now must insist in the bill, and if it's not in the bill, we must include it, that these facilities must be added into all our county and referral hospitals. And in the case of Nairobi, we must expand the Mathare Hospital and remove the stigma that is associated with mental illness. Because as I've said before, the doctors have said that we are all suffering, all of us, including you here, from some form of mental illness. It's only a trigger that is left, Mary Senator, for you to discover that you're suffering from illness. And it's part of us, and we must live with it. The faster we tackle it, the better. I support. Thank you.
Senator Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Cha kwanza Bwana Spika, mimi nataka kumshukuru sana dada yetu Kasanga, Senator Kasanga Mulwa kwa statement yake hii. Bwana Spika, tunajua ya kwamba katika Kenya mzima hakuna familia ambayo haijakuwa na mtu mwenye akili punguani. Sisi sote tukiwa tuko hapa tuna majukumu ya kuangalia familia zetu, na wengineo huwa wako na akili punguani. Mimi nikiwa mmoja wapo katika kuwa na jamii yangu ya karibu ambayo iko na mtu ambaye ako na akili punguani. Lakini Bwana Spika, tutaona kwamba kwa mara nyingi serikali imekuwa ikifanya ikitilia mkazo zaidi mambo ya hospitali, hasa tukiona kama hivi majuzi wametilia mkazo zaidi upande wa kama COVID-19. Hiyo ni sawa kabisa. Wameweza kutilia mkazo upande wa kansa, hiyo ni sawa zaidi, hiyo ni sawa kabisa. Lakini kwa upande mwingine serikali imelegeza mkono, hususan kwa wale watu wenye akili punguani. Tukiangalia katika Kenya, ni hospitali kidogo sana ambazo ziko na matibabu ya watu wenye akili punguani. Nikisema hivyo ni kwamba ninavyoelewa mimi, ziko hospitali pengine 2 zinazojulikana sana. Ukifika mkoa wa Pwani, Bwana Spika, utaona ya kwamba hospitali inayoeleweka sana ni hospitali ya Proceedings. Na ukija Nairobi itakuwa ni hospitali ya Mathare. Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya kwamba hospitali iliyoko Proceedings Hospital, ile ambayo ni hospitali ya serikali, haina vifaa vya kutosha. Na hata jambo la kusikitisha, hivi leo ukiambiwa kwamba mtu wako amepatikana na akili punguani na ameambiwa aende Proceedings, utashangaa wewe mwenyewe ukienda ukiangalia vile wale watu wenye akili punguani wanavyoishi ama wanavyowekwa katika hali dhaifu, ya kwamba hata pengine kama ulikuwa umekwenda pale huna akili punguani kidogo, kama alivyosema huyu ndugu yangu Junior, ya kwamba sote sisi binadamu inafika wakati tunakuwa na akili kidogo zinakuwa zinapungua. Lakini utapata kwamba ukipelekwa ukiwa namna hiyo, basi ukifika pale utashikwa na akili punguani, kwa sababu vifaa na maekeo ya wale wanaoishi pale, wale wagonjwa, ni hali ya dhaifu zaidi. Naona ya kwamba ingekuwa vizuri, Bwana Spika, ikiwa serikali itaweza kusema ya kwamba itachukua mkando wa mbele na kuona ya kwamba kila county ikiwa iko na uwezo, kama kaunti yangu ya Kilifi ambayo iko na uwezo wa kuweza kutenga mahali ambapo hawa wagonjwa wenye akili punguani wanaweza kuangaliwa kwa hali ya heshima na kuwekwa katika hali ya maegezo ambayo yako na nidhamu. Bwana Spika, hiyo bill ama hiyo statement aliyosema ingekuwa vyema ikiwa kutatiliwa mkazo na tuweze kuangalia kwamba hawa ndugu zetu ambao watakuwa wamepatikana na akili punguani na wamewekwa katika yale maegezo ya hospitali waweze kuangaliwa kisawasawa. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Murkomen, na unajua vile ya kuuliza unabonyesha. Haya.
Bwana Spika, niko na hoja ya nidhamu kulingana na yale Senator wa Kilifi, Senator Madzayo ile lugha ametumia Bwana Spika hapa, kwamba tafsiri ya neno mental health kwa kimombo ni kusema kwa Kiswahili, Bwana Spika, kwamba ni kuwa na akili punguani. Bwana Spika, kweli ni haki kutumia lugha kama hiyo, na auoni Bwana Spika kwamba hiyo ni baadhi ya lugha ambayo inachangia kuhakikisha ya kwamba wananchi hawajitokezi ama Wakenya hawajitokezi kutafuta suluhu ya ile magonjwa wanapitia ya kimawazo? Ningefahamu Mr. Speaker, Bwana Spika, tuseme ya kwamba ni ugonjwa wa kimawazo, lakini tukisema huyu ni mtu akili punguani ni kwamba ana upungufu ya kiakili, Mr. Speaker, na ya kwamba watu wengi wataogopa sana hata kujitokeza kusema kwamba mimi ni mtu mwenye niko na akili punguani. Lakini ukisema mtu wako na ugonjwa wa kimawazo, Mr. Speaker, ama lugha kama haya, ndio itaweza kufanya watu wengi wajitokeze kutafuta suluhu ya kimaisha, Bwana Speaker.
Inanikumbusha kipindi kilikuwa kinaitwa ubingwa wa lugha. Lakini naona Senator Kasanga pia. Okay, sawa. So endelea Senator.
Speaker. Bwana Speaker, kuna lugha ile ambayo unaweza kuitumia ikawa lugha ya fasaha, ambayo unaweza kusema ya kwamba yule ni mtu mwenda wazimu, na hiyo ni matusi kwa yule jamaa ama jamii ile iliyo na yule mgonjwa mwenye akili punguani. Akili punguani ni neno ambalo limetambuliwa katika kutumia lugha za Kiswahili ya kwamba mtu ikiwa akili yake haiko tamamu, basi anaitwa mwenye akili punguani, haitwi mwenda wazimu. Mwenda wazimu ni kumdharau binadamu. Ni kama vile ndugu yetu yule ambaye hayuko hivi sasa, ndugu yangu Mwaura, ya kwamba kuna majina tofauti tofauti tunaweza kumuita, lakini sasa tunamuita mtu mwenye ulemavu ule ambao hawezi kujisaidia, huwezi kumuita ni nguchiro, ambao ni jina ambalo unaweza kudharau mtu. Kwa hiyo ukitumia lugha fasaha ya mtu ambaye mwenye akili ambao haiko sawa sawa kabisa, unaweza kutumia lugha ya kwamba mwenye akili punguani. Ningependa tu kumfanisha kwanza ndugu yangu Murkomen ako sawa vile alivyosema, na mimi naona kiupande wangu pia niko sawa vile nilivyosema, lakini kilugha ya ufasaha ni kwamba hawa wenye akili ambao kidogo imepungua ni akili punguani. Asante.
Yes, Senator Murkomen.
Ingawa singependa, Mr. Speaker, kubishana na mwenzangu, kwa sababu uhodari wake kwa utumizi wa lugha ya Kiswahili uko juu kuliko yangu, Bwana Speaker. Yangu ni ya kujifunza, lakini mara nyingi, Bwana Speaker, tumesema ya kwamba kama vile bunge la kitaifa imefanya tayari, ya kwamba ile standing orders yetu ibadilishwe ikuwe katika lugha ya Kiswahili, ndio sisi wengi wetu tuweze tukapata nafasi pia ya kujifunza kupitia hiyo standing orders. Lakini Bwana Speaker, ningependa ndugu yangu Stewart Madzayo akubaliane na mimi ya kwamba kidogo Mr. Speaker, Bwana Speaker, akili punguani ninavyo mimi nasikia na vile nahisi ni kwamba, Bwana Speaker, inaweza ikatumiwa ama ikaeleweka kwa watu huko nje ya kwamba ni kama matusi kidogo, ni kama tu kusema ni afadhali kidogo kwa ile kuita mtu mwenda wazimu. Ile lugha ingefaa zaidi, hata kama mimi sio mkuvunzi wa Kiswahili, ni kusema Bwana Speaker ako na shida ya afya ya kiakili, Bwana Speaker, ama shida yenye ama ugonjwa ya kiakili. Lakini Bwana Speaker, tukisema akili punguani vile sisi tunaelewa, ama vile tunasema ni lugha ya mtaa vile tunatumia hapo nje, itawezekana kwamba hakuna mtu atajitokeza kufika kwa daktari na kusema, "Bwana daktari, nitibu, niko na akili punguani." Asante Bwana Speaker.
Ningependa nikomeshe mjadala huo, kwa sababu inaonekana vile nilisema imeanza kuwa ni ubingwa wa lugha na ni nani anafahamu zaidi, lakini tumeelewa ni nini kinazungumziwa. Senator Madzayo, unataka
Yes. Nataka kumsifu sana ndugu yangu Murkomen. Leo amejaribu na Kiswahili chake pia mimi nimekubaliana naye, lakini msimamo ule wa kisawasawa ni ule ambao mimi nilikuwa nimetangulia kusema, lakini yeye namsifu leo, amejaribu sana.
Asante. Senator Sylvia Kasanga, you wanted to say something?
Yes, just a point of information, Mr. Speaker. that it was actually brought to my attention by the chair of the health committee that in this current budget, and I think that is why I raised the statement to commend the current 2020 to 2021, where am I? 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022 budget, that actually we finally have budgets for mental health. And this is part of what the action plan that we were speaking on in the statement is highlighting. And I would really encourage members, if you just go to the website and see what part of the action plan is funding, it includes a new facility, a new national teaching and referral hospital, a new Madare. Hopefully it will have a different name so that we can change the facility that is there. And I think that is a very big step towards the beginning of the reforms of mental health. And also just to inform this House that it is the work of this House, we've been champions of mental health, and this is, at least we can begin to see the strides towards having the reformations being done. So, Mr. Speaker, I was just bringing this to the attention of the members, that we finally have a budget. And I'm glad that your communication is talking about tomorrow, because one of the questions they were asking me is that there's a budget now for a board, but they can't quite constitute the board because they don't have the legal framework for it. And they were asking how soon can the bill become a law so that the board can be formed and they can start actually doing some work. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Imana Malaki, by virtue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thought we are not connected. I've been raising my hand for a while and didn't get called. But I'm glad that you saw me, and now I'm going to comment on this statement about mental health. As my colleagues have said, mental health has got this poor connotation that if you are mentally sick, then you are less than a human being. And so the question of treating those people with respect arises that the person did not choose to be mentally ill. It just happened. And two, it seems to me we should be talking about education too. There must be doctors, there must be enough doctors in the country to deal with the situations like that. I've had an experience of a doctor that's available once a week. So that seems to suggest that there are not enough doctors that can deal with mental illness. So that means that some training must be put in account. Some money should be spent training doctors like that, so that our people can get the service they need. Otherwise, many people are going to continue suffering just because there is not enough doctors to take care of that. So I want to say that education is an important component of this mental illness, and people should be treated with respect because they did not choose to be ill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Professor Ongeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to compliment Senator Kasanga Mulwa for this very timely statement on the status of mental health. Mental health, although duped an illness, is a normal process in the status, in the health status.
What's your point of intervention, Senator Shionga?
Speaker, the Senator Ongeri has just said Senator Kasanga Mulwa. Do we have anybody by the name Senator Kasanga Mulwa? I thought we had Senator Sylvia Kasanga. Senator Kasanga Mulwa is somebody I used to hear some years back. I don't know.
Okay, you made your point. Senator Professor Ongeri, I guess that was a slip of the tongue.
Mr. Speaker, I believe Mulwa Kasanga is the father of Senator Sylvia Kasanga, and that should settle the matter. And I don't think it was meant in any manner. If anything else, it was accorded the highest respect from an elder like me, referring to a daughter who's next to me here, and I want to thank you. So, Mr. Speaker, on a serious note, many people have duped mental illness as a disease that you must be confined to solitary confinement. And this has been a misnomer and of the type of disease that we're dealing with. 80% of Kenyans are mentally ill. They are mentally ill because they have a problem which is bothering them. It may be financial, maybe marital, maybe because of the children not having school fees to go back to school, or maybe indeed some problems at work or some problems in some other places. And therefore, Madam Speaker, one of the things that has been a big problem for this nation is for being people duped that they now are psychologically affected, therefore need to be confined and restrained in some of the mental hospitals, Mathare Hospital, for instance. Let me assure you this House, every one of us, including members of the senators here, you've gone through a crisis of one form or the other. And you've gone through a mental depression in one form or the other. And this is the everyday exercise that we find ourselves in. And therefore, we should now treat this as a normal occurrence, which happens like any other cold or like any other infection that may be in the body. And we must be able to distinguish the difference between those who are pathologically sick and therefore need some level or higher level of standard of treatment than those who are just suffering because of disturbances in their mental psyche, in their mental upbringing, because they cannot be able to put in the context of the society in which they live in. And therefore they find themselves slightly disoriented. That's why one of the major recommendations that must always happen is that this must be an integrated service within the normal health service provision within the country. You cannot be able to start segregating what is mental, which is not mental, because technically all of us are mentally ill in one form or the other. Even when you have a disease, you go through mental depression, you go through anxiety, you go through some level of self-internal questioning and self-internal interrogation, what has happened to you in your life. And therefore, this policy, I'm glad, one of the major areas, and I believe the major policy will have an arching policy where all cases that have some level of mental sickness or mental illnesses will be able to go through the normal hospitals, the county hospitals, the national hospitals, and then only then those who are acutely ill, who have a pathological process that gives an acute psychological problem that can then be separated and be treated, and the underlying cause taken care of without any much ado. And I think this is the most important part of this. And I'm happy, therefore, that we must provide mental leadership. And this policy must be adhered to so that you don't start discriminating people who are sick in one form or the other. And I think for me, it's critical that we do accept that we are all sick, we need help, and we need to be taken care of in a normal general hospital, in a normal outpatient clinic, in a normal health center, in a normal dispensary. And there should be no discrimination. It's only those who have the propensity of criminalizing the illnesses in their own rights that will then need some level of isolation and everywhere else. And I'm happy that this is largely a preventable condition. It's preventable in the sense that if you remove the offending agent, these people, by all standards, are normal. You just need to remove the offending agent. It may be that the circumstances, the poverty in which we are in, is the one that will be able to cause and trigger the mental illnesses. The lack of school fees, like now, may be able to trigger the mental illnesses. The pandemic itself today, even the very nature of things that we're going through at the moment, that in itself can cause mental illnesses. No wonder, Madam Speaker, we now see a lot of suicidal tendencies. We now see a lot of people taking their lives because of reaching at the extreme end of life when they see there's no life whatsoever that they want to live, worth of living, and therefore they take their lives rather unfortunately in a manner which is not acceptable in the normal society. Therefore, one of the areas that we need this policy should be able to expand on the national scale and at the county level must be one of prevention and promoting the well-being of society and the well-being of the citizens so that they can have a normal mental perspective, a normal mental living, and a panorama that reflects happiness rather than being demented and being able to be depressive and therefore causing harm to themselves or to their neighbors or the community in which they live. And I'm happy that this policy is being able to attend to both the preventive and promotive aspect of the mental health. And of course, the most typical element that we must accept and appreciate is that putting the budget for mental health is important so that people can have access to quality mental health, so that they are not discriminated in any manner, in any way. And therefore, that means even in our medical schools, when I was teaching the medical school, one of the areas that we looked at mental health as an integral part of the training of our medical students when they become doctors. And it's important that we appreciate this. And it's only then, after that, that they can be able to branch off to the specialization with a special interest, first of all, of taking the preventive and the promotive aspect of mental health and also dealing with the pathological disorders that may arise out of mental illnesses or mental disease. And they are best suited to be able to differentiate what is a mental case and what's not a mental case. And some of them may just pass for normal illnesses, but creating depression in their level. And obviously strengthening the mental health systems, both at the national and at the county level. And in the county, those who are aspiring to be governors, like Cherege, Senator Cherege, and many others I see, Ochila Yako, I think aspire to be the governors of tomorrow. I think it's important that we take note that mental health is within the society in which we live, and you must make provisions in your budget to be able to take care of the basic mental illnesses that are treatable, that are preventable, and therefore cause no more headache to anybody. It's just like a cough or flu, or like we've seen societal pressures, that if you remove the poverty element, the poverty index amongst our people, therefore access to services is easily achieved, you will see some of these depressive elements of patients relieved. And therefore the burden of disease and the burden of attending the outpatient clinic will be immensely reduced. Therefore, I thank Senator Sylvia Mulwa for bringing this statement to awaken us that there is now a policy, 2021-2030. It's a very robust policy. That policy provides that we must treat mental illness like any other normal illnesses in life. That policy provides that there is both the preventive and promotive aspect of mental health, and therefore they need not be isolated. That policy also provides that we should be able to set up services and activities within the national context and within the county level context, so that these people can attend like any other patient attending an outpatient clinic, and therefore they can be sorted out without much ado. And that policy, of course, gives us that we as administrators, both the politicians and the provincial administration and the chiefs and other people, must be aware that we need to strengthen the mental health in our society and monitor any areas where this may be developed and look for the primary element, for the primary cause of that mental illness, rather than looking for excuses to banish these people to some isolation places in the so-called mental quarantines. And this is very unacceptable in the modern medical science, that everybody is sick and everybody needs help and everybody can acquire that help when it's properly channeled. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
That brings us to statements under 47.1. So we move to the next statements on 48.1. Petronilla Were is not there, so we defer that one. She's online. Fine. Then Petronilla Were. We defer statement by Senator Petronilla Were. The next one is by Nandi's Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have two statements. I hope you will allow me to read them concurrently so that I don't need to come.
Yes, just go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Request for statement on the issue of mounting, regulating, and control of roadblocks in Kenya. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations on the issue of mounting, regulating, and controlling of police roadblocks in Kenya. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the specific locations and number of gazetted roadblocks in Kenya. Number 2, investigate why Kenya Police Service has mounted many roadblocks along the major highways, especially along Eldoret, Nakuru, Nairobi Highway. Number 3, provide the names of other state agencies mandated to mount roadblocks in the country and state their specific locations. Number 4, outline the criteria used in mounting roadblocks along the highways in the country, giving reasons why the police erect roadblocks on rural access roads and on tarmac roads. Number 5, Madam Speaker, state whether the Ministry of Interior and national coordination of national government is aware of roadblocks mounted along Eldoret Kitale Highway, around Matunda and Moy's Bridge towns, where the police allegedly collect bribes and harass road users that, Madam Speaker, allegedly that you pay 2,000 when you are stopped, but when you enter into either of the cells of either Matunda or Moy's Bridge police station, you allegedly have to part with 5,000 Kenya shillings. Madam Speaker, and finally, outline the measures, if any, that the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government are put in place to ensure that the road users are protected from such harassment by rogue police officers in our roadblocks that have been mounted across the country. Secondly, Madam Speaker, request for statement on the Teacher Service Commission interviews for promotion and employment. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 48.1 to request for a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the failure by Teacher Service Commission to conclude the interviews and for promotions and employment. Madam Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, state the reasons why the Teacher Service Commission has failed to conclude the interviews for promotion and employment in Nandi County, an exercise that was conducted between 8 to 19 February 2021 at Teacher Service Commission county offices countrywide. Number 2, explains the reason behind the failure by the Teacher Service Commission to employ curriculum support officers in Nandi County, yet interviews were conducted for the same positions in the county. Madam Speaker, number 3, provide the criteria under which the Ministry of Education and Teacher Service Commission uses in employing the curriculum support officers in Kenya, And finally, Madam Speaker, investigate whether the Ministry of Education has completed the exercise of interviewing and promoting curriculum support officers in the country, and state the number of curriculum support officers employed per county in the entire Republic of Kenya. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for that opportunity.
Thank you, Senator. No, we are not commenting on those ones. We refer them directly to the respective committees. 3 minutes, yeah, go ahead. But it's only one, we are only allowing that one.
I'm sorry. Madam Speaker, in fact, I was hanging here because I wanted to make a comment on the first statement by the distinguished Senator for Nandi, the issue of roadblocks. Madam Speaker, this is probably the country with the highest number of roadblocks anywhere. I have counted, Madam Speaker, on one occasion, from Eldoret to Bungoma is 98 kilometers. And I counted 14 roadblocks in 98 kilometers. Every single turn, you're entering Turbo, a little town, a market. As you enter Turbo, there's a roadblock. As you exit, there's a roadblock. And all these roadblocks, Madam Speaker, are toll stations. And we need, as a House, Madam Speaker, to send a clear message to Minister Matiang'i and the IG that we need a better management of our roads. Because the problem is not the Minister of Roads, it is the security sector. Madam Speaker, I remember when I was your foreign minister, the president of Rwanda came to Kenya and said he's contemplating using the port of Dar es Salaam, despite the distance, because of the number of roadblocks from Mombasa to the exit in Malaba. And at every roadblock, the exporters and importers of Rwanda are paying money, making business extremely unbearable and expensive. We want to urge, Madam Speaker, as the distinguished senator has raised, that it is good to have roadblocks where necessary, either to battle crime, we want to arrest a wanted person that you know is coming through this route and so on, but it can't be routine. That everywhere you go, they're checking your insurance, the next one is checking your brakes, the next one is checking something else. And in fact, Madam Speaker, you will be surprised that all these transfer traffic trucks, they are given a special envelope to drop at every roadblock. We must stop this. ESCC must come in this, NTSA must come in this, and the Minister for Security in this country must bring to order these disruptions. Because, Madam Speaker, I say this because we care for this country. If we are losing our trading partners because of our misbehavior on our roads, it affects our economy. It affects everybody. When Uganda starts looking for a route to go to Tanga, when Rwanda and Burundi want to go to Tanga, a friend of mine who has just come back from Congo, deals in oil, tells me the Congolese find it better to do an extra 800 kilometers from Beni, Bunia, and Goma to Dar es Salaam than to come to Mombasa because of our roads. Not because the roads are bad, but because the roads are badly managed and mismanaged by our enthusiastic and corrupt-leaning security agencies. This is not good for the country, Madam Speaker, and I thank you for giving me an opportunity to augment what Senator Cherargei has said. It is a matter of grave concern, and we need to deal with it.
Honorable Senators, you know statements under 48A are supposed to be referred to committees, and our time for statement is far spent. So let me just give Senator Matsayo 2 minutes, please.
Asante Bispika. Bispika, kwanza nataka kumpatia kongole ndugu yangu Cherargei, seneta wa Nandi, kwa hiyo kuhusikana na wale askari ambao wanaegeza usalama wakati wa jioni. Speaker, utaona ya kwamba sasa hivi vitu vinawekwa pale kama chuma za kuzuia watu ama kuzuia magari. Hata imekuwa tena sasa si mambo ya kuzuia watu peke yake, si kuzuia magari peke yake, lakini pia wakati ule wakiwa wameweka hizo wanazuia pia watu. Mara nyingi umeona kwamba vijana wetu ni vijana ambao huwa wanaketi katika maeneo, hususan wale vijana ambao wanatafuta riziki ambao wanaipata wakati wa jioni. Watu wametoka kazini, wanaenda manyumbani, wakati wakishashukishwa mahali kwa bus stage wanachukua bodaboda wanaenda nyumbani. Utakuja kuona ya kwamba Speaker, ya kwamba bodaboda ndio watu ambao wanapewa shida zaidi sana katika hii mambo ya roadblocks. Mtu amebeba abiria, anaambiwa kila safari atakayopita katika hiyo bodaboda, atakayopita katika hicho kikwazo cha kwamba ni lazima katika hiyo roadblock upite. Utaona safari hii akiwa anaenda anaambiwa lazima wache shilingi 50. Akirudi lazima shilingi 50. Sasa utapata kwamba kama safari yake ilikuwa leo atengeneze kama shilingi 200, atakuwa na shilingi 100. Na familia na yeye pengine na familia ya kuangalia ile pikipiki ameikodisha, ina haja ya kuingiliwa na petroli. Mwenye hiyo pikipiki pia anataka kitu hapo ndani. Sasa unapata ni hasara tupu ambayo inapata wale vijana ambao wanafanya kazi ya bodaboda. Sisi tunasema kwamba hivi viegezo ambavyo vinawekwa katika barabara kuzuia kama roadblocks. Nakubaliana na ndugu yangu Wetangula akisema ya kwamba hajaona katika nchi katika Afrika mzima kwamba Kenya. Speaker, unanipatia dakika moja nimalize kwa hisani.
You are forgetting I gave you 2 minutes and your 2 minutes is spent. So you want another 1 minute? Have it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Asante Speaker. Speaker, kwa ukarimu wako mimi nasalimu amri. Mimi nasema kwamba wale watu ambao wanateseka zaidi ikiwa ni bodaboda, kuwe na sheria ambayo itaweza kufuatwa ili wakati wakiwa wanavuka pale kwenye ile polling station, polisi waache kuchukua hongo kutoka kwa bodaboda. Asante Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Now statement 4 is deferred. And we move to the next one, statement number 5 by Senator for Kericho. Senator Aaron Cheruiyot.
Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order number 48-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee on the closure of Kericho law courts. In the statement, Madam Speaker, the committee should explain the circumstances which led to the closure of Kericho law courts on the 5th of March 2021, thus denying the residents of Kericho County and public in general the much needed court services. Number 2, outline the interim measures, if any, the judiciary is taking to ensure the criminal matters and other urgent matters are handled so as to minimize disruption in the service delivery and guarantee access to justice and provided for in Article 48 of the Constitution of Kenya. 3, provide an update on the construction of Kericho law courts and the plans, if any, that the judiciary is putting in place to increase the number of law courts in Kericho County. And finally, Madam Speaker, state when the Kericho law courts will be reopened. Thank you.
Yes, Senator.
Madam Speaker, the issue of Kericho law courts has been a thorny issue in that region, in Kericho, and for all practitioners in the South Rift. Mr. Speaker, the Law Society chapter in Kericho, Madam Speaker, have been petitioning the Judicial Service Commission to take action, and a lot of outcry has come from lawyers, litigants, citizens from that area, Madam Speaker, because you can imagine the closure of the law courts from 5th March 2021 up to now, and the backlog that has ensued as a result of the same. The information I have is that apparently the Kericho Law Court itself building was condemned by government officials responsible for oversighting buildings in the country. And you can imagine people who have petty offenses related to, Madam Speaker, small, misdemeanors. And they are all being held in remand because they don't have 500 shillings, 1,000 shillings. People who, if they had gone to court, some would have been sentenced to community service, some would have been asked to pay 500, 1,000 shillings or something of that sort and be freed. Now there's these people are being denied their rights under Chapter 4 of our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. I think this is very serious. I hope Senator Mogeni, who is a senior counsel, will take this thing very seriously with the Committee of Legal and invite the JSC. I saw a story in the newspaper that the Chief Justice, less than 3 months, less than a month or two, since she came to office, was complaining that judicial officers or JSC officers are being invited to various committees of Parliament. I thought, Madam Speaker, first of all, I don't want to give credibility to newspaper stories, but if that is true, because it was a headline story, if it is true, I hope that the Madam Chief Justice will separate her responsibility as the President of the Supreme Court and as a judge, and understand her role as an administrator and the chair of Judicial Service Commission. And it doesn't mean that she has to be there herself to come and answer the questions. The registrar can come. The vice chair of the Judicial Service Commission can come. These are serious issues. JSC should be interacting with Parliament as much as possible because that is where we're discussing matters of resource allocation and improvement of infrastructure of the judiciary. There is a part of the judiciary that is not concerned with separation of powers, which is basically dealing with administrative and infrastructure issues. Then the other part where you cannot dictate to a judge what decision they are going to make, when she's sitting as a judge of the Supreme Court, that is a different decision. I hope the Chief Justice, and I'm very glad that this Chief Justice, Madam Speaker, believes in the bottom-up approach of resolving cases in court. And that is the right direction. From the President of the United States to the Chief Justice of Kenya to the hustler nation in this country, bottom-up approach is the only way of solving this problem. And in a bottom-up approach to management style, I want her to deal with this issue of Kericho expeditiously, come before the committee, or even before the committee is convened. The Chief Justice should take time to ensure that he resolves this issue of Kericho so that lawyers, judges, magistrates...
Sorry, Senator. Senator Oshilo Ayako, do you have an intervention?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just touched by the non-access to justice by our people of Kericho County, I wanted to inform Senator Murkomen if he agrees to be informed, and I notice he does.
can be informed by my student.
Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, it is true. He is a very good teacher of international transactions, and he taught me very good law. Now, Madam Speaker, the judiciary, particularly insofar as they believe in their independence, must create a platform for judicial accountability. It does not mean that they are not autonomous when making judicial decisions. It means that they must be accountable to the general public of Kenya by telling the people of Kericho County how and when they'll get justice. We are not asking them as an institution that they must decide cases in a particular way, but they must tell us as taxpayers and as representatives of taxpayers how judicial services will be accessed. So I think, Senator Murkomen, I would like to inform you that you must amplify that point. That point is sound. That point is good. All of us need to access justice, because without justice we can be bestialistic, we can be bestial, we can be very bad to one another. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Chair, Senator Ochilo Yako was such a bright student in my class, to the extent that, Madam Speaker, sometimes he would assist the lecturer in sharing very important information in the class. And as you can see, he does it so gently without announcing to the whole world that he went to Alliance. So, Madam Chair, I totally agree. I totally agree that this is an issue that should be done, and we should have more interaction with JSC as parliamentarians.
Senator,
I'm concluding.
No, there is an intervention by Senator Faria.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm just wondering why it's such a, you know, your personal non grata if you went to Alliance in this house. I also went to Alliance. I want to announce. Thank you.
Senator, continue.
Madam
we'll
Chair,
give an opportunity to all
Madam Chair,
alumni here.
Yeah, it's a one way of praising Senator Ochilo Yako. So the point we are making is that we should have greater interaction with the judiciary when it comes to greater access to justice. And since if the building is an issue, if the building that was being used by the judiciary, the courts in Kericho is an issue, resources should be availed to the judiciary to quickly hire another space for the time being and deal with these issues, and especially for the poor hustlers struggling to access justice in Kericho County. I support this statement, Madam Chair.
Honorable Senators, I'll just give one opportunity to the minority side. Senator Kilonzo Mutula Jr. That will be the end of comments on the statement. Time is spent, Senator, please.
Oh, you want to say something? Okay. Madam Speaker, that issue raised by Senator Cheriot actually bothers me a little. And it cannot be right that a court can be closed and condemned since March of this year, and an alternative has not been done, has not been provided. Madam Speaker, I did an election petition in Makueni, and I can confirm that that building was makeshift. The people of Kericho should not be denied justice simply because a building has been condemned. And while at it, I want to confirm to Senator Murkomen that the letter written by the Chief Justice to the two speakers, out of the 5 summons mentioned in that letter, 3 are from the Senate. And I respectfully disagree with that letter. Because under the Constitution, we have a right to call any person, not even 125, any commission, any independent office. We can call them to the Senate and ask for a report on anything. This morning, we told the ombudsperson, Florence Kajuju, who revealed to the Legal Affairs Committee, Madam Speaker, that there are 5 institutions that have refused to respond to queries raised through the public. The National Land Commission on payment of compensation for land, the Pensions Department for people, Madam Speaker, somebody has waited for pension for 20 years. And when that person goes to Florence Kajuju as the ombudsman, the Pensions Department does not even respond. That is the same tone of letter I've seen from the Chief Justice. That does not appreciate the Constitution. That, and I must read it for the record, just for the avoidance of doubt. Reporting by commissions and independent offices. The Judicial Service Commission falls under this category. At any time, the President, the National Assembly, or the Senate may require the commission or holder of an independent office to submit a report on a particular issue. Madam Speaker, we are going to respond, and we will ask the Speaker to respond on our behalf, that the letter written to us by the Chief Justice is belittling this institution. Because we can request for anything. And we can call them anytime, on anything. Because what they are doing in the judiciary is serving the public. We represent the public. And we represent them more directly than they do. Because they are appointed, we are elected. To close a court like Kericho, and Kericho is a very busy town, covering a very large area, is a matter that should go to the committee very quickly. In fact, these are one of those instances that the committee should, in fact, decide quickly and send that letter to the Judicial Service Commission. You can imagine the number of people, Madam Speaker, who are on petty offenses, who their cases have not been heard. And I say this because languishing in custody. Because when Senator Dulo was leading a committee with Senator Kajwang on imprisonment, I remember a young man who I met in Shukuza, Boston Institution. This young man told us that by the time his case was determined for him to be incarcerated in the Boston Institution, he was sodomized so many times. That is the problem of keeping people in custody. I recently watched a video of a gentleman who is in committee, forwarded by Senator Faki, who is in custody for buying a mobile phone for his daughter that had been stolen from a crime scene involving the former police commissioner, Matthew Itere. Madam Speaker, this matter is very urgent, and I hope that we can get some responses quickly, because the judiciary can... The trial of... no, it's being done in a tent. Because the judiciary in Nairobi has found an alternative during COVID to dispense justice quickly. So if a building is condemned, buy a tent, make sure that the people of Kericho receive justice. Thank you.
Senator Christopher Langat.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me this chance to add my voice on this very important statement from Senator Cheruyot, who is my neighbor from Kericho. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, this issue affecting the Kericho Law Court, the closure of this law court has affected the southern part of Rift Valley. This is the court that has been serving Bomet and some parts of even Kisii and the rest. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that closure of this particular institution is actually closing justice to the people of the South Rift. Just imagine those particular people, as Senator Kilonzo Jr. was saying, with petty offenses, rotting in police custody, and some of them are not guilty, but they are staying in police custody for months, up to even 9 months, suffering because they have got no money to hire advocates to bail them out. So this one has created a lot of problems, and just imagine such a situation during this particular time of COVID-19. They are really depressed and they are suffering. So I want to say this particular clause has really affected our people in the South Rift, Madam Speaker. And I want to say that justice delayed is always say justice denied. This particular law court should be open with immediate effect so that it may serve people in that particular region. I support this statement, and I want to say the committee that will take over this one should do with a lot of speed to make sure that justice is really given to the people of Kericho and the Southern Rift Valley. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Masai.
Asante, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, mimi nikiwa kama mmoja wa wale watu walikuwa majaji na tukaweza kustaafu, Spika, ni jambo la kusikitisha sana, kwa sababu tunajua koti si jengo. Koti si jengo ama si nyumba. Koti ni hakimu. Hata akiwa mahali popote, yeye bado ni hakimu. Mtu akiitwa judge, ukimpatia tent, ukimpatia kiti chake cha kuketi, ukimpatia meza, hiyo imetosha. Hiyo ni koti. Spika, kwa watu wa Kericho ni jambo la aibu, ni jambo la kusikitisha kuona ya kwamba ikiwa serikali inaweza kukubali ama kuachilia koti kufungwa na watu wa Kericho kukaa bila mahakama, ni jambo la kusikitisha. Kuna mambo mengi sana wakati ule nikiwa huko yalikuwa yanatokea na tunapata zile complaints. Vijana wadogo wanawekwa katika seli ambazo sizo, hata mabarobaro pia wanawekwa, alafu usiku kunatokea mambo aliyosema huyo ndugu yetu Mutula Junior. Ni jambo la aibu. Kwa hiyo sisi tunasema ya kwamba kama bunge la Senate kunao muhimu kuona ya kwamba koti ya Kericho imeregeshwa mara moja. Si jambo la kukaa kufanya mkutano. Hivi sasa ukiangalia haki za watu wa Kericho zimezama ndani ya maji. Kericho si town ndogo. Kericho si town kama vile unaweza kusema pengine ni karibu na Kakuma kule. Kericho ni mji ambao uko na watu kufanya biashara. Kericho ni mahali ambapo mambo yanaendelea, si ya kibiashara, si ya kielimu, hata uhalifu pia huko. Sasa mimi nashindwa hawa mahalifu hiyo hata hiyo Kericho, hata wakipelekwa katika hizo jela basi zinazaa. Sasa wale wahalifu kila wakishikwa wanarundikwa, hawaendi kotini. Hili ni jambo ambalo lazima sisi tulitafakari, na kuna umuhimu wa kwamba hatua ichukuliwe mara moja kuona ya kwamba koti ya Kericho imefunguliwa. Asante Mr. Speaker.
Finally, Senator Wetangula Moses Masika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as a long-time practitioner of law, we feel very sad when we read and hearing from a distinguished senator from Kericho that a court has been closed and nothing is being done about it. Article 48 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, is very clear that the state must ensure every Kenyan has access to justice. And many other articles of the Constitution talk of speedy dispensation of justice, affordable access to justice, and people should not be made to suffer because of poor administrative decisions by any arm of government. Like my colleagues before me have said, Madam Speaker, and you are a lawyer yourself, a court is not a building. A court is an arena where justice can be dispensed to any person in need of justice. You can sit, we are being told about tents in the Obado case. You can actually sit as a court under a tree, as long as there is a judicial officer. In criminal cases, there's a prosecutor, and they can dispense justice for Kenyans. So to close a court, Madam Speaker, and let people languish in custody on end because the judiciary is not functioning is wrong and is something condemnable. Madam Speaker, you've been reading, and as lawyers you know that over 80% of Kenyans in custody, remand custody or post-trial custody, are people on what we call petty offenses. Snatching a phone, pickpocketing, petty burglary. Now they are even arresting boys on border without a license. You go to court, you are given a bond you can't afford. I remember we went to Kitui during the Senate Mashinani with Senator Mutula Kilonzo here, Sakaja and others. Madam Speaker, in 1 hour we fundraised and got more than 23 petty inmates released. Somebody is in custody for the last 1 year because he could not raise a bail of 2,000 shillings. 2,000 shillings. And the courts just keep on mentioning cases. We must reach a situation, Madam Speaker, where certain petty offenses should attract free bonds. As long as people can turn up, I cannot believe that anybody found riding a border motorcycle without a license will run away from justice. Let's deal with criminals who are hardened and dangerous to society in a different way from the way we deal with unfortunate petty offenders, economic offenders, somebody passing by a maize field and plucking a cob of maize to save himself from hunger, ends up in custody for 2 years. This is not right, Madam Speaker. And I want to urge the new Chief Justice, who has come in with a lot of goodwill, that the letter we saw about accountability of the judiciary on the spending of public resources must have come out of improper advice. No parliament, Madam Speaker, in this country or any comparable jurisdiction will summon a judge to ask them how they arrived at a judgment in a case. That we can do. But we vote for money to go to the judiciary, to build structures, to run their day-to-day expenditure. They have to account for that money. And Parliament will appropriate funds to government departments and will also hold those departments to account. You remember, Madam Speaker, in 2013, when the Auditor General questioned that the judiciary had spent 68 million on the inauguration of the president. The judiciary has never been given any authority to spend money on a presidential inauguration. And you can tell that that money was actually misappropriated, if not stolen. Those questions must be there. If we give the judiciary money to buy vehicles, and instead of buying new vehicles, they go to Dubai and buy second-hand vehicles, questions will be asked. If you give them money to build a courtroom in Mandera worth 60 million and you go there and find a courtroom worth 10 million, questions will be asked. Those are public resources. So I want to urge the Chief Justice that in case there is a disconnect in communication between the courts and Parliament, let both institutions have liaison officers that can help in a smooth communication and running of affairs, but nobody, and I repeat, nobody in this country, as long as you are in public, administering public resources, you will be asked questions, and you must answer those questions. And we want the people of Kericho, and Madam Speaker, you come from very close to Kericho. I'm sure some of your people are languishing in custody in Kericho because their cases cannot be heard. Somebody from Nyakaju goes to Kericho and tries to ease himself by the roadside. Somebody turns up and says, Maliza 20. They end up in custody and they stay there for a long time. So we want courts to function everywhere so that Kenyans have easy access to justice.
Senator Mzurube.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity to support the statement by Senator Cherokee. Senator Cheriot concerning the closure of the courts. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to issues of courts must always be open. And I'm saying like this, Honorable Speaker, because in a society, you'll always find that people have issues. And sometimes, if people are not managed well, they may even take the law in their hands. Like in a situation where there is crime in a village, and this matter is not reported to, to the the authority that's supposed to deal with it, authorities that enforce law, you'll find that people can take the law in their hands. It has been evident that sometimes a thief is found and is even burnt to death. Sometimes he's even stoned and all that. But you see, when courts are in place and they're open, then the law can actually deal with such crimes. And Honorable Speaker, when the courts are also closed, the rate of crime goes high. And when the rate of crime goes high, there are many things that will be affected. Issue of development. Like, for example, in a situation where someone's stall is broken into and all his goods, merchandise are taken, that already takes that person back very many years, because he already had a startup capital that he invested in his merchandise, and he has started earning a living. But when crime happens and all his goods are taken away, it means that the person cannot even provide for his family. Honorable Speaker, there are cases also when we see people being mugged in their own houses, people also having their houses being broken into and their premises. So if the law is not there to enforce, order, to ensure that people are safe, to ensure that people are secure, we'll have a lot of insecurity. And in a state where we have a lot of insecurity, then the environment is not conducive even for development. The environment is not conducive for trade. And Honorable Speaker, even human rights basic human rights will also be violated, Honorable Speaker. And I have to say that there is need for urgent reopening of the law courts in Kericho, so that the people of Kericho also are not affected unnecessarily. And Honorable Speaker, as I speak about the issue of reopening these law courts, we have also to find out, are there other law courts in other parts of the country that are also closed? In the 47 counties, there is need for the laws to be open. And Honorable Speaker, there are also cases of land that sometimes have taken too long. You find that neighbors have been having issues of land, and you know how emotive land can be. Sometimes even you'll find neighbors murdering each other, killing each other, because the cases are dragged and the land issue has not been resolved. But if these issues are brought, on board and they're solved in court, that is a legal way of guaranteeing someone to have his land peacefully, Honorable Speaker. Because there are some people also who arrogate, land to themselves, land that does not belong to them. Some people even arrogate, land that belongs to the poor and the vulnerable, around them, and they make it their own. But when the law courts are open and issues are taken up legally, then people can have their deserving, titles for lands, their deserving cases resolved, amicably. Honorable Speaker, the issue of human rights is an issue that we must all be concerned as senators, and in the 47 counties. And when it comes to these human rights issues, the law comes in clearly to ensure that people's rights, basic human rights, are not violated, Honorable Speaker. When you're talking of human rights, we are talking of many rights. We are talking of, a right to stay anywhere in this country, a right to own property, a right to do what you are doing. As long as you are within the confines of the law, you are supposed to be protected. And Honorable Speaker, the Constitution comes out clearly to state that everyone needs protection. Sometimes we find that people end up not being protected just because of criminals. Like, I want to talk about the issue, or to cite the issue of boda industry. And Honorable Speaker, I remember you came out very clearly about the boda industry. In the boda industry, you'll find that sometimes even bodas are, mugged. Sometimes they're even, denied their rights to ride, because sometimes they ride people who are even muggers. They ride people who are ready to attack them. But these people should be protected. And who protects them? It should be the law, Honorable Speaker, so that they're identified, they're given protection, because they provide economy for our country. They make sure that they're able to get a living for their children, Honorable Speaker. And some of the best thriving business people, Honorable Speaker. Now, Honorable Speaker, I support this statement, and I strongly support that all law courts should be open so that justice is not delayed. Honorable Speaker, if justice is denied, if justice is delayed, it is very unfair for a country that is supposed to be peaceful, for a country that preaches peace. Honorable Speaker, since the colonial times, we have been striving for peace. And so, Honorable Speaker, we need to do it legally, we need to do it lawfully, so that all citizens feel that they're protected, they're secure, and they're able to do their businesses, progressively, as Kenyans. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I support this statement.
Thank you, Senator. Finally, we give to Senator Mwinyi Haji, Senator for Mombasa, where he's on virtual.
Mkono taarifa ambayo imeletwa bungeni na Senator wa Kericho, Senator Cheriot. Mheshimiwa Spika, mahakama ni huduma za dharura kama vile huduma za afya na huduma nyinginezo. Kwa hivyo kufunga mahakama hususan wakati huu wa corona ni kinyume cha katiba na vile vile pia ni kinyume cha maadili. Mheshimiwa Spika, mahakama zinaweza kaa mahali popote. Kitu kinachotakiwa ni mipango ya kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usalama na kuna vifaa vya kutosha kueleza mahakama hiyo kufanya kazi. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona Mombasa mahakama zimekaa chini ya miti na watu wakahukumiwa na wakapata haki zao, na vile vile chini ya hema mahakama zimeweza kukaa pia bila matatizo yote. Kule Rwanda wakati kulikuwa kunasikizwa kesi za jinai kutokana na mauaji ya kimbari ya mwaka 1994, mahakama nyingi zile za Gashasha zilifanywa chini ya miti ambapo wananchi waliweza kupata huduma bila matatizo yote. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, kufungwa kwa mahakama katika eneo la Kericho, Mheshimiwa Spika, unasababisha dhiki nyingi kwa wananchi ili ambao wanahitajia mahakama huduma za mahakama wakati wa kesi za jinai na vile vile kesi za kibinafsi ambazo zinafanywa katika mahakama hizo. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia nachukua fursa hii kukemea kauli ya Jaji Mkuu anaposema kwamba bunge halina nafasi ya kuweza kuichunguza Judicial Service Commission. Mheshimiwa Spika, tume zote zinapokea ruzuku kwa serikali, na hii kama tume ya mahakama pia ni moja ya zile tume ambazo ziko kikatiba na zinatakana zieleze ama zitoe tarakimu zao kwa bunge. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, kauli ya Jaji Mkuu haifai kunyamaziwa. Lazima bunge liweze kutoa taarifa na kumjibu Jaji Mkuu kuhakikisha kwamba hawazuii maafisa wa mahakama kuja bungeni kujibu maswali ambayo wanatakana kujibu. Asante Bi Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Thank you, Senator. Next order.
Order number 8, the Lifestyle Audit Bill, Senate Bills number 36 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to give effect to Article 10 and Chapter 6 of the Constitution to provide for the procedure for undertaking lifestyle audit and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 9, the Intergovernmental Relations Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 37 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Intergovernmental Relations Act to streamline the procedure for the transfer and delegation of powers, functions, and competencies between the two levels of government and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10, the County Government Amendments Bill, Senate Bills number 38 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the County Governments Act and for connected purposes.
Honorable Senators, for the convenience of the House, we move to Bill number 20.
Order number 20, the County Vocational Education and Training, Senate Bills number 6 of 2021, second reading.
Senator Milgo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The County Vocational Education and Training Bill 2021 be now read a second time. Madam Speaker, before I go through this bill, I want to take this opportunity to thank my committee members, the great committee members of Education Committee that came up with this bill. First of all, Madam Speaker, it is just recently that I celebrated the first anniversary of being chair to this committee. And Madam Speaker, this committee under 1 year was able to pass the education, early childhood development education, and was able to meet 40 counties virtually, to actually look at the landscape of ECD right across the counties, which actually culminated in a workshop that we held recently in Naivasha, Madam Speaker. Secondly, this vocational county training bill, Madam Speaker, again, we are going through the landscape of vocational education training, and already 6 are standing. We have already met again virtually 14 county governments, and we are on our way to meeting well over 40, that is all of them, before the close of business of this parliament. In other words, we shall be able to pass the bills that speaks to the education, the functions that belong, or in this case, that affects, that are domiciled at the county governments. Madam Speaker, my committee came up with this vocational education training bill based on the fact that sustainable development number 4 is speaking to issues all-inclusive education and leaving no one behind. Madam Speaker, we did realize that despite the fact that there has been free education starting in 2003, what happens is that we still have children left out after completing 8 classes, standard 8. We even still have others being left out. That is, those completing standard 8, not all of them will join the second level of education despite the fact that it is free. And then those completing high school, like for example this year, those that completed high school, secondary cycle of education was 747,161. But then those are the only ones that will join. Those that will join university education are 747,161, but then 604,021 will not qualify to join university education, Madam Speaker, nor will they qualify to join a higher diploma in TVETs. For this particular case then, Madam Speaker, we did realize that there is need to develop the vocational training centers to actually take up this particular load, and in this case develop skills that are important for startup businesses, they are important for self-employment, and in this case develop varied careers in construction, in healthcare assistance, in mechanization, in technical such as computer, in agriculture, machinery, and even in carpentry, automation, and such like, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are now in a changing world where the economy is changing and more than ever before requires technical skills, and therefore, as a country, we need to actually rethink the mission to actually provide or present students with high skills that in this case will be transferable, that will apply to the new economy. Madam Speaker, it is time to invest heavily in technical and great skills that will in this case spur jobs in the blue economy, which is the new frontier in employment for our youth, Madam Speaker. This is away from the white-collar jobs that has been there for a long time. Madam Speaker, this will go a long way in curing unemployment of the graduates from technical institutions, because those graduates with technical skills, Madam Speaker, are actually not going to look for employment, but then they find them, and therefore they'll be constantly employed, because construction will always be there. We have very many jobs that require such skills, and therefore employment is guaranteed. This is the very reason, Madam Speaker, that the Jubilee government in 2013 thought of actually setting up, came up with a strategy to set up TVET institutions in every constituency, and at the same time requested the county governments to fund vocational training centers which are domiciled in those particular counties. Madam Speaker, furthermore, we need to churn, as I said, this is a new economy, we need to churn job-ready graduates, which will spur, or in this case, have skills set to actually be in tandem with what is happening in the world over. Like, we need skills to attain the Big Four agenda of manufacturing, universal healthcare, affordable housing, food security, as well as Vision 2030 and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of achieving high growth. Madam Speaker, just apart from this, there is the political, the social, and the economic blueprints that in this case require, or in this case, are skills intensive. Madam Speaker, apart from this, we also have Agenda 2063 that is expected to actually come up with flagship projects that will actually spur an all-inclusive economic growth in our country and Africa at large. And Madam Speaker, these are in the areas of agriculture, for value addition, they are in the areas of industrialization, in the areas of logistics, in the areas of transport, in the areas of machinery, food and beverages, they are in the areas of even science and technology, they are in various areas that are skills, with demand high skills, Madam Speaker, and this will go a long way to provide high quality standard of life, and in this case, where citizens are living, having a very wonderful well-being, Madam Speaker, and they cannot be able to do this without gainful employment. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, with the recent COVID-19, we did realize that even the best of managers, the best of institutions were beaten hands down because of the fact that they ended up, in this case, having closures because of a lack of best ways to work around this. That is why we had lockdowns, we had issues actually coming to standstills, even businesses, even us as a house, as committees, we had to struggle in the first time to actually hold virtual meetings. And I think right now we are getting used to iPads and computers, which actually is obtained through this vocational, this is a skill, obtained this through these vocational training centers, Madam Speaker, and for a long time, even those that are at professor's level or doctors like me are actually lacking such very basic skills that are very important when it comes to actually day-to-day management. Madam Speaker, looking forward, we are told as we are looking at COVID-19 that every 100 years there is found to be a calamity, and therefore we must be developing skills that are futuristic to be able to actually handle such disasters if they are going to come again. Furthermore, we have to encourage our politicians to actually develop, or in this case, work around the skills that are going to spur economic, social, and environmental demands, so that in this case we shall become self-reliant. Madam Speaker, there is also the issue of climate change that is calling for green economies, and green economies again are skills, high skills demand, and in this case, the very reason why we must, in this case as a country and as counties, encourage education that will rely on ability to train, upskill, reskill, and even empower people to take up the new jobs. Madam Speaker, the green economies are bound to create up to 24 million jobs that are very skills intensive. Madam Speaker, this is the very reason why my committee came up with this bill to actually speak to issues vocational education and training in our counties, because actually these are what we used to call village polytechnics that were training in crafts. And in this case, they are domiciled at the counties. It is a very important function of the counties. And therefore, the principal objective of this bill is to put in place a legal framework to govern the establishment and management of vocational education and training within the county, and one of the functional areas of the county governments as provided for under Part 2 of the 4th schedule to the Constitution relates to village polytechnics and homecraft centers. Madam Speaker, therefore, Part 1 of this bill specifically is about definition of terms such as authority, technical and vocational education, cabinet secretary, council, board of management. That is definition all through up to where we have up to clause 3. Clause 3, which is now speaking to, clause 3 is speaking to actually those people, that is now the guiding principles in actually starting up a vocational training center. That is formulation, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of those vocational education centers. It goes a long way in clause 3b to speak to issues of equality, equity, and non-discrimination when it comes to development of these centers. Madam Speaker, C, D, E, and F are speaking to issues, promotions of innovativeness, transparency. It is speaking about, to innovation strategies. It is speaking to issues, accountability, strategies that must be put in place to ensure that these centers are run without any fuss. Madam Speaker, G of that is, in this case, speaks to collaboration with the national government. In this case, these vocational training centers are run that is in collaboration with the national government, which in this case provide actually the curriculum and the policy. Clause 4 of, clause 4 of that, this bill, Madam Speaker, speaks to obligation of the national government. What role does the national government have on these vocational training centers that are domiciled at the county, or in this case at the developed units? The national government plays a critical role in development of education research policy on this vocational training. Number P, 4B, Madam Speaker, is that they set examination standards and certificates, they provide certificates, they develop curriculum and co-curricular activities to be conducted in these centers, they accredit the institutions, they train and register the vocational centers, they build capacity. G is establish partnerships and linkages to ensure the support for these centers. H, in this case, setting of standards for registration and licensing of vocational centers, setting of standards, that is under F, and J in this case is provision of budget and resource mobilization to subsidize vocational education centers. As I'm reading number 4F, clause 4F, Madam Speaker, no, clause 4J, Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate because earlier on, before the budget 2020-2021, this developed unit used to receive Kenya shillings 2 billion. That was ring-fenced for vocational training centers. However, right now, this particular budget is going out as equitable share. And at the course of my committee, actually looking at the landscapes of vocational that is training centers, we did realize that there are governors that have not even scratched the ground. They have not even provided any materials, Madam Speaker. Neither have they even employed trainers in those particular centers, and even if they have employed, there is no scheme of service to pay them, and therefore they are demotivated, they cannot even work, and we do not expect any gainful learning in those particular institutions. Therefore, I'm quite worried because of that Kenya shillings 2 billion, and we kept on actually struggling as a committee to bring it back. But when the close of the budget came, this one was still dispersed as equitable share. I hope in this case, the county government, some of them have told us that they'll manage to ring-fence through the enrollment, but I do not know whether they'll manage to do that. But as a committee, during the remaining time, we are going to follow up on that. The national government again plays a critical role in vocational.
Senator Dr. Milgo,
yes.
There is an intervention by Senator Faria.
Okay.
I wanted to know if she wants to be informed. There's something I want to give her in terms of the budget. The budget of this year compared to last year, there's 53 billion extra that His Excellency President provided. Remember, after they had the stalemate in the Senate regarding the formula, the 53 billion extra was provided. And given each county has much more money, so unless a governor does not want to do the vocational training work, they have much more money at their disposal that they can use. I just wanted to send, so let them not give you that excuse that ring fencing is not there, therefore we don't have to do it. They have much more money that was at their disposal, much more than what was at their disposal last year. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Proceed, Senator Milgo.
Thank you, Deputy Majority Leader, for that information. Actually, you know what we mean by management, and we know our governors, when there is nothing specific, they'll always actually mismanage, they will divert the funds, and we are saying, come the future, if it is possible, it is important to ring-fence that particular funding, because all the time, it is important when we have funds and they go to the county